Good morning. Right over there. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to the Saturday stream. Today is Saturday, August 9th. And despite the last 10 seconds, I actually am ready to go. Welcome. I hope that everybody is doing well. Let's see here where we need to be. We're starting a new project today, which I'm pretty excited about and which I did prepare for last night. So, yeah, let's get into it. Last weekend, man, I had so much fun doing like this kind of isolated one weekend project, that resume webpage. I thought it was so fun. And yeah, it just got me really excited for what we're going to work on next. So as you can see on your screen, we have a bit of data. I put this together last night. So this is some data for kind of a category vanilla JavaScript filtering page. Let me pull up the mock-up. Where are we here? Guess I'm not quite as ready as I thought I was. Here we go. So here's the mock-up. And this is kind of, I don't know if we're going to do exactly everything in this mock-up. The mock-up is going to be a little more inspirational, perhaps aspirational. But I do like what's going on here. And this mock-up represents what I did in my old job all the time. So at my old job at the University of St. Thomas, they loved filters because we just had so much data, so much information. It's a university, right? So we were constantly building apps and pages, and we used Vue.js to give people all this information about the university. So graduate, undergraduate, courses, programs, certificates, majors, minors, concentrations, and then everything that goes along with being a student, like scholarship opportunities, housing, anything you could think of related to going to university. We were constantly building pages and apps and looking for ways to communicate all of that information. And they loved filters. They loved giving people filters because, I don't know, they just loved that. So I got really good at that using Vue.js. Now, I've never built a filter like that in vanilla JavaScript, and my vanilla JavaScript skills aren't that good. Like, I'm still I consider myself an intermediate JavaScript user. They're definitely not as good as my CSS skills, which at this point, I can write CSS in my sleep with both hands tied behind my back. JavaScript, I still need a lot of help. So last night, I did a bunch of prep. I got some data ready to go. Where are we here? I got some data ready to go. And I'm pretty excited about building this out and making sure that we're leveraging JavaScript more often. I think about the project that we did back in June, and I waited until the last day to implement all of the JavaScript. And I really wish that I hadn't done that because I was completely overwhelmed. In hindsight, I know now that I was clearly procrastinating doing it and working on it because I'm not as comfortable with it. And I just thought, okay, I have to start choosing projects where we are using more JavaScript and I'm using it throughout the process and not saving it all till the end. So that's why I chose this project. Also because I happen to like these types of apps where you pull in data and you do filtering, like just like very UI focused type of using JavaScript, right? So that's why I'm excited about doing this, and I'm familiar with it. So I understand the strategy behind these types of filters, why you offer this type of thing to your users, the kind of data that you might have that fits well into this. I think I enjoy building stuff like this. So, okay, one moment. All right. So, if you're interested in following along or working on a similar project, I do have a GitHub repository linked down in the description. You are welcome to fork it, clone it, do whatever you want. I have had people in the past follow along as I build, and I think that's really fun when people share that with me. Yeah, so let's get started. I have all of our SVGs ready to go, and I also have all of our images ready to go. And this is going to be kind of a, I guess, food themed type filter. Let's see here. I can show you these images. We'll take a look at the images and the SVGs. So here's what we have. And I got all of the images from Unsplash. And here are our SVGs. I got all of the SVGs from Ionicons. And I don't think I have those linked in the description. I'll make sure I get those linked in the description. Unsplash is great if you are looking for free images. So, well, I think we should just go ahead and get started building. So, yeah, here's our products.json. I'm going to create an index.html. And I don't think we're going to write any CSS today, but I am going to pull in this products data. So let's get started. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. And we'll call this a category filter. And we'll start with a header with a class of header, main with a class of main, and footer with a class of footer. So in the header, we'll include all of this. So this top banner, what I would call kind of, I guess, meta information, for lack of a better term. They have a currency converter, which I was thinking that I'm not going to pull in an API with a live, like, daily exchange rate. Maybe I'll just make like an array of static exchange rates, but the functionality would still be the same with JavaScript. I'm not going to change the language, but I will make sure that all of these things exist in the UI. So if somebody wanted to fork this, they could pull in their own data. They could build authentication. We're not going to do any of that, but I'll still make sure that those things function. Oh, and Go Elmo Go is here. Hello all, hope stream goes well. I have a question. How do you make your logos? I am trying to find a way to make the logo for my personal project. So this is a good question. And Go Elmo Go, I'm glad that you're here because I would actually like to chat with you offline if you're open to that. Do you happen to follow me on Instagram or X? I am on X, although I'm not very active on any social media, but I exist on those platforms. would you mind like DMing me on Instagram or X, because I have a question for you. And then to answer this question, I either just make my logos as text, like I will literally just pick a font that I like. And if it's a font that I'm already using, maybe throughout the site as headers, I think it's completely fine to pull in a font and then use that as your logo. But I wouldn't do that if you're only using it for your logo. Otherwise, I would just use like, so I was a Photoshop user for years. Now I use Affinity Photo. I would just make the logo in Affinity Photo. And if it's a text logo, there's usually an option where you say like create outlines, and it converts it from a font to like an S, well, you export it as an SVG, but it converts it from a font to like a graphical element where it's not a font anymore. It converts it literally to lines, to outlines, and then you export it as an SVG. If you make a logo in Photoshop or Affinity Pro and you export it without converting it to an outline, it will export it as a font. So I've learned this the hard way. So make sure that when you type out your logo, I'm sure it's something like create outlines or text to outlines, something like that. Then export it as an SVG. That is the best way to handle that. So I hope that answers your question. And also, I would also be willing to help you with that offline if you need help. So there's that. Let's see. Okay, there we go. And then, so we can go ahead and make a logo. Maybe we could do that tomorrow morning. I can show you how I make a logo. So we could go ahead and make a logo. We'll obviously do navigation. It will be responsive, mobile friendly. We'll do a hamburger menu and hide it off canvas. So here's what our filtering options are going to be. I'm not going to do this slider price filter, and I'm not exactly going to do this color or size type filtering. Okay. Great tip. Remember, create outline. Yeah, and if you ever want me to show you how to do that, but I could do that tomorrow. That's fine, as long as I know ahead of time that that's something that people want to see. I'll just plan to do it tomorrow morning. Also, if you haven't figured it out in the next 24 hours, and yeah, hit me up on Instagram because I have a question for you. So if we're looking at our product data, the two categories are going to be literally category and colors. So what I did is I looked at each image and I just gave it a name based on what I was seeing with my own eyes in the image. I categorized based on what foods I was seeing in the image, and then I categorized the colors based on the colors that I was seeing in the image. Like, could not be a simpler approach, right? So our filters are going to be category and colors, and they're going to be checkboxes. That's how we're going to wire this up on the side. So we will have a color filter, but we're not going to have a size filter, obviously, and it's not going to look exactly like this. So we're going to use our imagination a bit here in the sidebar. We are going to make sure that we do this up here, this showing 1 of 5 of 79 results. Right now I have 21 items in my product list, and I will probably add more over the next couple of weeks. That's what I had time to do last night. We are going to do a sort by, so we'll do sort by A to Z or Z to A, and that will be sorting by the name. We will also do sort by price, so low to high and high to low. Oh, I would also like to have a search component in our sidebar. So you could type and in real time it would search the name. So you could type, for example, Parmesan, and that would pull anything up with the that has Parmesan in the name. And then we've got this little view switcher over here on the right. So right now this is a grid view. There's also a list view. I actually would like to implement this, but I don't know what the list would look like. So we'll see. Well, let's see how things go and let's see how the timing shakes out. And if we have time, we could definitely implement like a layout switcher and go from grid to list. I would be happy to do that if we have time. Then down at the bottom here, we have pagination. I'm not planning to do pagination. I am going to do a load more button. I think load more is actually better. I think it's more modern. This mock-up was made in 2017, and I think pagination was generally what people did back then. I think load more is a more modern way to approach that. Then we've got an Instagram kind of widget, a sign up for the newsletter widget. These will be pretty straightforward to build. And then we have a very robust footer. Yeah, so that's fine. We can go ahead and build out this footer. I do not have, if we see down here in the very lower right-hand corner, these different currencies. I didn't find, not that I even really looked that hard, I didn't find SVGs for these different types of currencies. So I'll see if I can wrangle some up here over the next couple of days. And yeah, this footer, it's a big beefy footer, but that's okay. We can handle it. We can do it. So let's get started, shall we? Just writing some, yeah, so the goal today is just to get this HTML written and pull in our product data with JavaScript. And in order for you all to not see me fumbling and bumbling through that, I actually yesterday evening sat down with ChatGPT and I mapped it all out and I got it working. So very pleased with myself for that. So, but ChatGPT is here to help us if we need it, right? ChatGPT is here to help us if we need help. So, all right. So let's just start with a div with a class of, I'm just going to call this meta because I don't know what else it is. We'll just call it meta header. And we've got 3 more containers. So we'll say div, meta, item, times 3. There we go. And these aren't links. This is just like info. Thank you, Elmo. I was worried that you were going to be like, what? I don't want to talk to you. But I don't know why I worry about stuff like that. Yes. What do you enjoy the JavaScript? The JavaScript struggle, excuse me. Because now that I am editing my streams as project compilations, like so I've been streaming a year now, right? Like just about exactly a year. And I think if you're new to like being on YouTube or being on camera, there's this period of time where you have to get used to like hearing your voice and seeing yourself. And I got over that really, really quick. It just took me like a few weeks where I was like used to seeing myself, used to hearing myself. It just doesn't bother me anymore. And I know it bothers some people. What bothers me more than anything is when I watch back a stream and I see myself struggling so much with JavaScript because I fly through CSS. Like I am so comfortable with that. And so seeing myself struggle, it's so cringe. It is so painful. And I've only had to see it now a couple of times, even though I've done it many times. I've only really had to force myself to watch the entire process because I'm editing these streams where I was like, unacceptable. We cannot do this anymore. You must prepare ahead of time to make sure that you don't look like a fool. So anyways, that was funny. That was very funny. So, oh, wait, that's not what we're doing here. So let's grab our first SVG, which is navigate outline. And we'll use aria. Aria hidden true. And then these SVGs for my icon, just because I use them so often, they don't have a fill, they have a stroke. So I always delete the current color value for stroke, and then I leave this, I leave that attribute empty, and now I can style the stroke with CSS. And then free shipping all around the world. So we'll do another div with, we'll just say meta headline. Free shipping all around the world. And we'll do another div with the class of meta tagline. And we'll just do some lorem ipsum. Beautiful. No, we don't need these, do we? And then we've got online support 24/7. Here's our alarm clock. Whoops. What I meant to do? Hang on. Oh, did I accidentally close? Yep, I did. Thank God. Thank God VS Code protects us from accidentally hitting. Command A is select all, Command Q is quit, and they are right next to each other. That is a bad design decision. All right. Online support 24/7. And then money back guarantee. I didn't find this SVG exactly, so I just have this little stack of cash. And we always make our SVGs aria hidden true because they're decorative. They don't need to be read out to a screen reader. We don't even need text to say what they are at all because there's no functionality here. There's no buttons. There's nothing that the user needs to interact with. It's just purely informational. So hiding the SVGs is perfectly fine, and just making sure that this text gets read out to a screen reader, that's the first priority. So I do think that we should, because a screen reader is going to land on this page and immediately start to read out all of these things without giving somebody who relies on a screen reader any context for what's happening on this page. So I do think that we need to have an H1 that comes before everything else that is hidden. So clearly we have this big title here, category. And I don't know that we exactly need to use this as this title here. I actually think that we could skip having this title here and we could just put an H1 above these meta items, like right here. In fact, let's just do it. And we'll say class access hidden. And we'll just call this the category filter project. So now this H1 will exist in the DOM. The screen reader is going to come in and immediately get the H1, the title of the page, but it's going to be hidden. It doesn't necessarily need to be there for the people who can actually see the page and interact with the page. And I think that is just fine. This is SEO friendly, screen reader friendly, template hierarchy, correct way to do things. So there's that. Okay, and money back guarantee. Money back guarantee. Okay, and then we've got, so here is our logo. So for now, I'm just going to type this logo in as text, but we will make this logo tomorrow morning in Affinity Pro, so I can show you how I do that. So we're going to do, although technically this would probably be the H1, wouldn't it? Since we're hiding our H1 off screen for screen readers, this does not actually need to be the H1 then. Yeah, because that H1 needs to come first before anything else. So this is just going to be a div. So we'll have three divs here. And we still haven't gotten to the navigation yet, which is fine. So we'll say div, what is this? Div user. We'll call this user meta, because most of this is stuff that the user would interact with, right? So we've got USD with a drop down, language English with a drop down. So we'll say div user item. So this is div user lang. And this is USD. Put this in a span. USD. And then we'll do the chevron down. I don't think I took out the other current colors. I'll do that. And I don't know that these really need to be, they do kind of need to be unique. Maybe user dropdown is better, because then that would automatically style these other things. Yeah, so instead of user language, let's just say user drop, because that is a better representation of what is actually happening here. And I think we can, and then this would be language colon English colon, and I'm going to put this in strong English, and that is the correct semantic use of strong. And then we have our drop down arrow, Yes. And then we'll do a div with, we'll just call this page site title or site name. That's a better one. LaBelle. And we probably want this to be a group, this to be on its own, and then this to be a group, so we can space those out correctly. So we've got user meta. Well, we could just do 3 sections of user meta. Yeah, or 2 sections, yeah. So we've got user meta. Then we've got site name right there. And then we can do another group, another sibling called user meta. Oh, we're getting a lot better at this, aren't we? Only took a year. Well, technically it only took 12 years in my case. Okay, so we have my account. And then we have our drop down. And then we're going to have a little grouping with a search icon and a cart icon. And then we have a number here that indicates how many items are in the cart. And I don't think that I'm going to do, well, I know for sure I'm not going to implement add to cart functionality. This project is really about being able to filter the products, not add something to a cart. And if we have time, I will implement a search drawer, but I'm not really planning to do that. So again, I'm just making sure that these elements exist on the page. So for this, we will want to do something like search this site, and then we'll make this a class of access hidden. One moment. Okay, I had to cough. I showed remarkable restraint by not doing that with my microphone or my camera on. Hello, Brainy Game Mind. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hey, by the way, do me a favor. First of all, if you're new to the channel, thank you. This little channel has had a bit of a growth spurt over the last few weeks. So if you're new here, thank you so much. I appreciate every subscriber, everybody who's new and tuning in. Do me a favor. If you're watching right now and you haven't liked the video yet, please like the video so we can push this type of content out to more people who might be interested in practicing their front-end development skills. We do HTML, vanilla CSS, vanilla JavaScript. We don't really do frameworks or libraries here. Not because we are in denial about their existence or their use. We all know at this point that the universe was probably made out of React. It's just about practicing the basics and understanding kind of our core foundational concepts, right? I have a philosophy after 12 years as a front-end developer that if you understand the basics, you could probably walk into just about any situation and pick up a framework or a library and jump in and do what you need to do in that organization. That is honestly my experience as a front-end developer over the last decade or so. And if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, what are you waiting for? We would love to have you. We are here every Saturday and Sunday. We just build projects, we practice, we chat, we hang out, we have fun. We have several well, we have a handful of mods. Well, a handful. We have 3 mods. Go Elmo Go is a mod. And these are folks that are just like hanging out with us on the weekend, keeping things fun and friendly and making this like a cool, safe, fun environment for everybody. No shenanigans. No, there's no shenanigans here. There's no reason for any shenanigans other than just enjoying HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So thank you. Thank you for that. I subbed last week. Thank you so much, Brainy Game Mind. I appreciate that, and I'm happy that you're here and you're able to join us. All right, back to it. Here we go. So search the site. I'm going to make this access hidden because we don't need this. We don't need to show this. It's not in the mock-up. But we definitely need some text here to let people know what that is. Although this should be a button, shouldn't it, Angela? Yeah, actually these probably should be a button because they've got arrows and they're interactive. Yeah, these should be buttons. That's cool. So really what we should be doing is instead of divs, we will make these buttons. Oh, temporary insanity. So this is a button, and this will have an ARIA label of my account. And so we'll do user drop as the class for those buttons. We'll do the same thing here. This will also have an ARIA label of search. Search the site. And so I think this should also be a button. With an ARIA label. And we'll just call it language. Or we could say pick a language. Pick a language. And then button, button, and we'll give this an ARIA label. Pick a currency. Pick a currency. Yep, this is our top level button. Well, the button would be you want to click the whole thing, right? You want to click the whole thing. You know what? This is what we're going to go with for now because we always end up modifying some of our markup once we get into the CSS, and that's okay. I think that we need to... Where did I do this last time? So this is a project we did a couple projects ago. Just refreshing my memory. So we've got the button, select category, and then we've got the unordered list with the items. Yeah, we'll probably end up doing something like that. Because I don't think, I mean, this little caret is so small. You need to be able to click on the entire thing. And the entire thing really needs to be a button because that is what gets keyboard focus. So that makes sense. Yeah, okay, we're going to go with that. We're going to go with that. And then let's add our cart with a little counter. Search the site. And then the cart would also be a button because theoretically you would click the button to go to the cart, right? I could see us modifying some of that. Probably what I'm going to have to do is just spend a little time offline making sure that I get that right. Yeah. So we'll just call this cart. Bag. Here's our bag SVG. And then we also want to have a span, and we'll call this count. Now we'll put 0. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. It does. No, it makes sense. All right, navigation. Nav with the class of navigation. And we'll do a UL with a class of main menu. And then what do we have here? Home, shop, blog, pages, features, contact. Six items. So we'll say LI with a class of menu item with an anchor link times 6. So we've got home, shop, blog, pages. Features, contact. Good night. It's bedtime. I understand the feeling. Bedtime trumps everything else, doesn't it? It always gets priority for me as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for hanging out in the chat. I definitely appreciate it. Get your beauty sleep, rest well, and come back and finish the stream when you are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And have a good night. Let's make this a little bigger. There we go. All right. So there's our navigation. And just to be thorough, let's go ahead and get our mobile stuff in here as well. So we know that we need a button on mobile to a hamburger menu, excuse me, to open the menu. And then we'll need a button to close the menu. And you know what? That is the one thing that I did not get from my icons. So let's grab that. So here's our menu, and then close. This is aria. Aria hidden true. Oh, yep. And then we need an aria label of open menu. We also need aria controls, and we'll just say main, excuse me here, main nav, and that means that we also need an ID on the navigation of main nav, because we need to tell screen readers, hey, this button controls this element. So we've got aria label open menu, aria controls main nav, and then we're going to do aria expanded false. And it's false because by default, whether you're on desktop or mobile, the menu doesn't show. So even if you're on mobile, you're not going to see the menu until you actually open it, and then we'll use JavaScript. So when you click this button and open the menu, this changes to true. And this should be a sibling element that comes immediately before the navigation element. Next, we will add a button inside the navigation element, and this is to close the menu. So we'll say aria label close menu. But we don't need anything else. We don't need aria controls because we are a child element of the thing that is being opened and closed. So we don't need aria controls, and we don't need aria expanded. We only need that on the button that is outside of the element. So all we need is the aria label close. All right, let's make sure we get these strokes out of here. So here's our button to open the menu on mobile. Here's our button to close the menu on mobile. And of course, we'll hide those so we can style for desktop first, and then go ahead and do the responsive styling. So you're welcome. Thank you for streaming. You are very welcome. I enjoy it. Honestly, I've told myself to stop saying this because I feel like I'm constantly saying it, but I'm going to say it one more time. Best decision I ever made, other than, you know, actually becoming a front-end developer. Streaming is one of the best decisions that I have ever made because I really, really enjoy it. So there's that. Okay, so here is our navigation, accessible, ready to be styled. Ready to be styled. All right, is that it? Wow, that's it. That's quite a header, isn't it? Let's review here and make sure that we have everything. So we have this, we have our H1 that the screen reader is gonna see as soon as they hit the page. That's really important because there's so much in that header happening. We've got this header meta with these 3 items. Then we've got the user meta with pick a currency, pick a language, the site name. Oh, hang on here. I think we have I don't think we need, hang on, user meta is the outer container. Then we've got, so I don't think we need these. So this is the top. This is the, oh, maybe we do the meta. I don't think we need this. here's our button, button, meta, site name, meta. I don't think we need this. Site name. And then here's our button, button, button. Yeah. Site name. I'm also going, do I need to give this? We could also do user meta, might help with styling. Yeah, this works. This makes sense. Meta header, meta item. Yeah, if we need to change around some of our, markup, we can. I'm wondering if we should put this button to open the navigation inside with this button. We've got the ARIA controls main nav, and it does technically come immediately before the nav element. Yeah, because we're probably going to want to put that hamburger menu over here on the far right. So I think that I am going to take this and put it inside this container. And that works because of our ARIA controls. So even though it's in another container, we know what this button is controlling because it's not a sibling anymore. It's the child of the sibling. So I think that works. Beautiful. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Now we're on to main. So I think, so let's think about what we want, what is going to be the H2, the H3, so on and so forth. So we can put this title here. I think this is fine. Like this could say category filter, right? Which is the H1 for the page, but it shouldn't be an H1. I think this could just be in a div. I think the H2s should be the titles of the products. So if we look at our JSON, everything has a name. So I think our H2s should be the names of the items. I think the H3s should be the title of the filter, how you're filtering. That's what I think the template hierarchy should be. So that's how I'm going to proceed. Okay, so here we are. So we're inside our main. Well, should we take a look and see how this page isn't styled, so it's not going to look like anything. So here's, and I took out, these are SVGs because I took out all of the styles. So that's why we have all this space. And we've got our buttons. Yeah, so this, it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like anything right now because there's no CSS. That's fine. All right, let's close some of this. So at the top of the page, we'll put div, I'm going to say div page name. Category filter. And then we'll do a grid wrap. So I'm going to do a div grid wrap. And then I'm going to do a Well, should this be an H2? Maybe the H1 should be the site name, but if this was a page, this wouldn't be a home page. If it was a home page, no, I'm going to stick with what I have because I don't think this would be a home page necessarily. I feel like this would be a category page, and you would want the H1 of a category page to be the title of the page, not the title of the site. The H1 for a home page would be the title of the site. Yeah. And I do want the products to be the H2s because the products are the most important part of the page because you're trying to sell the products, right? So we want those to have really good search engine optimization. Yeah, so this should be in this but what is the section? Well, is anything inside of a section? No, nothing's inside of a section because what we learned last week is that in order to use the section element, a section needs to have a header. And none of this specifically has a header, right? Because the H2s will be inside of the individual products, which we'll use articles for. So, okay. So grid wrap, this will be, we'll do a div and we'll say products. And then we will do an aside, and this will be the sidebar filter. Let's do underscores. And then I want a search and I want 2 categories. So we'll do, the form will not have an action, but we will do a class of search name. And then we'll do a label. Can a label also be an H3? Let's ask. Can a label element also be an H3? Yes. HTML allows a label element to wrap most other phrasing content, and an H3 is considered flow content, so you can technically nest one inside the other. For example, both of these are valid markup. Oh, so you could do label H3 or H3 label. But here's the catch: semantics and accessibility. Screen readers will read it as a heading and a label, which can be redundant or confusing if you're not careful. Some assistive tech might announce heading level 3, user name, edit text, which could be fine. But if the heading's only purpose is visual styling, you may be better off just styling the label to look like a heading. SEO and structure. Headings are meant to convey document structure. If you make your form labels into headings purely for size and weight, you may clutter the heading hierarchy and confuse both users and search engines. Instead of H3, you can keep semantic correctness by using label for, okay, and style the form heading to match your desired visual. If your intent is purely visual, I'd recommend keeping them as labels and styling them like an H3. If you truly need it to be part of the document's heading outline and serve as a form label, Wrapping the H3 inside the label is fine. Just test it with the screen reader to make sure the output is sensible. Okay, so I'm just going to explain why I'm doing this. It's not purely visual. The sidebar, hang on, purely visual. The form elements in a sidebar are for filtering, and the labels add to the page hierarchy. So it makes sense they'd be H3s. In that case, using H3 as the label text actually makes perfect semantic sense. Document structure. Your sidebar filter headings are meaningful section titles in the page outline, so they deserve heading tags for hierarchy, likely under an H2 for the whole filters section. Labeling inputs. They still need to programmatically associate with their form controls for accessibility. Wrapping the H3 inside a label or vice versa achieves that. So this is saying do the H3 first and then the label. Why this is better. It's clean HTML5 headings. It's clean HTML5. Headings can contain phrasing content like labels, and label can be the only child without breaking semantics. Screen readers announced heading level 3 price range slider, which is exactly what you want. If you had multiple controls under one heading, like min, max, price, I'd keep the H3 for the group and use a field set plus legend for the actual label of the controls, since label can only be tied to one input. Okay. So if I have 3 ways to filter. So if I have 3 ways to filter, search input, and 2 sets of check boxes, do they each go into their own form element or one form element? The form does not submit, but these are elements of a form. If they're all part of the same filtering interface, you should keep them inside one form element, even if it never submits in the traditional sense. Semantics. A form isn't just for submission. It groups related controls into one logical unit for accessibility and navigation. Accessibility. Screen readers can tell the user form start and form end, giving context. Also, all controls within the form are part of the same group in the accessibility tree. Keyboard navigation. Browsers allow form-level shortcuts and assistive tech features that work better when related controls share a form. Future-proofing. If you later add a clear filters button or auto-submit via JavaScript, having a single form makes it trivial. Hello. Thank you so much. Happy to have you. I think you've commented on other videos before. I recognize your name. Happy to have you here. And I appreciate that you appreciate what we're doing. It's all about practicing, right? So, okay, so example, 1 form, 3 filter types. Yeah. And then, so here would be our search input. And then ChatGPT is saying use the field set element to group our categories. Excellent. This is the stuff that ChatGPT is so good at. This strategy around making sure that we are semantic and accessible, right? Because this is complex. I think this is incredibly complex, and I've been doing this for years and I still get tripped up. I'm like, wait a second. It's so easy to overthink and to either do too much or to not do enough, or to do too much and to find out it's wrong. This is the type of stuff that ChatGPT is so good at. Okay, so key points in this setup: field set plus legend for grouped checkboxes. So you're not labeling the set with just one checkbox's label. H3 inside the legend preserves heading hierarchy while keeping proper form semantics. One form keeps everything unified. If you want, I can show you how the heading plus legend combo is announced in NVIDIA, VoiceOver, and JAWS, so you know exactly what users will hear. That's where people often make or break filter accessibility. I don't know, what are they? Sure, like, let's do it. Okay. Will you actually read it or print it? If you mean me personally, I can't literally read it out loud like a screen reader would, but I can print out exactly what common screen readers announce for that markup so you know what users will hear. For example, using the form plus H3 plus legend structure from my last message in NVIDIA NVDA Windows with Firefox might announce form landmark, heading level 3 search, edit, type in text, heading level 3 category group, books checkbox not checked, electronics checkbox not checked, heading level 3 price range group. Oh, this is so interesting. So you can see headings are still announced as part of the page outline. Legends are treated as group labels for sets of checkboxes. All controls are scoped inside the same form landmark, which makes navigation predictable. If you want, I can tweak this so your filter headings are only headings and not repeated in the legend. That's the main variation people experiment with to avoid repetition. Okay. Sure. All right. Here's the headings only once version so you don't get double announcements. The idea, excuse me, use the H3 for your visual and structural heading. Make the legend visually hidden but still accessible so it labels the group without reading the heading twice. So here we have the form element, then we have the H3 label, and then we have the H3 out just immediately before, so a sibling of the field set. And then we have the legend, which is screen reader only. So how does this not repeat it? So this would be the screen reader output. Form landmark. Okay. Heading level 3 category group. So how does, I don't understand, how does visually hidden class, how does that not read it out loud? So it's only reading the H3, but it's not reading the legend. Notice the heading is read once, The hidden legend still labels the group for accessibility, but doesn't add a second category or price range announcement. If you like, I can also show a version where each H3 is actually the legend itself. So, okay, maybe I think I don't understand something here. So, how does hiding the legend visually prevent a screen reader from announcing it? I thought the whole point of hiding it visually was so screen readers did announce something people didn't actually see in the UI. Right, you've got it. A visually hidden legend will still be announced by a screen reader. The only thing hiding it visually does is remove it from sighted users' view. So in that headings only once pattern I show, the point isn't to stop the legend from being read, it's to stop the heading from being read twice. Once as a heading and once as a legend. Here's the problem we're avoiding. If your H3 is also visible inside the legend, screen readers announce it once as a heading in the document outline. Then they immediately announce it again when they reach the checkbox group because legends are read when entering a field set. With a hidden legend and a visible heading, sighted users see the H3, not the legend. Screen readers still get the legend label when they enter the field set, but they don't encounter the same text back to back. Heading level 3 category. Visible legend and heading redundant. Visible heading and hidden legend non-redundant for sighted users. Heading level 3 category group. Books checkbox not checked. But the group still has an accessible name category from the legend. It's just not read out loud a second time unless your screen reader is verbose. Skip field set entirely or use ARIA labeled by on the group container instead of a legend, but accessibility guidelines recommend keeping a real legend for grouped inputs. Okay. How does the screen reader know that the legend text is the same as the H3 in order to not repeat it? It doesn't. A screen reader isn't smart enough to say, hey, now the group's label is the heading, so there's no duplicate. Okay. I'm still not understanding what ChatGPT is telling me. Go Elmo Go has some home repair stuff to do. I will keep the stream open. I may be back before the stream ends. If I am not, I will look out for your reply to my DM. Thank you, Go Elmo Go. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day if you are not able to return. And yes, I will talk to you offline. Thank you so much. So, okay. So I'm still a little fuzzy on why, if you visually A visually hidden legend will still be announced by a screen reader. The only thing hiding it visually does is remove it from sighted users. So in that headings only once pattern I show, the point isn't to stop the legend from being read, it's to stop the heading from being read twice, once as a heading and once as a legend. Okay. Form, landmark. Okay, so heading level 3 category. Group. I'm let's see here. Guitar jams. Also, in my opinion, the big green category on your site should be smaller, not centered, and above showing text. So, I mean, that's fair. This isn't, I didn't personally design this. So maybe if you're new here, you need a little context on, I'll tell you where I got these mock-ups. These mock-ups are like a decade old. I bought dozens of mock-ups back when I was a freelancer, and I just needed help coming up with layouts and design patterns when I was doing freelancing for my freelance clients. I don't really freelance anymore, but I think I have hundreds of mock-ups in my collection. So the whole point of the stream is to just grab these mock-ups that I've never had a chance to build and build them out. We can make changes to some of these design elements. I personally don't care about the design. I'm not worried about it. We'll make it look nice. What I really care about is kind of what we're doing now, making sure that semantically things are correct for accessibility. Here's the other thing that I didn't really realize when I started doing this. So this is from 2017. We were not talking about accessibility in 2017. I mean, really, we just weren't, not like we are today. So a lot of these design elements, in my opinion, are not designed with accessibility in mind. And I just think that that's so incredibly important. So I tend to spend a lot of time making sure that I'm getting things right with accessibility because I do really care about it. So yeah, so they're really, because I'm not the best designer. I mean, I really struggle with design. I think a lot of front-end developers do struggle with design. We love to build them out, but we don't really love to do the design, right? I personally love it when somebody just hands me a mock-up and then tells me to go do it, and then I can figure this stuff out because this is the stuff I really like. The accessibility and the correct HTML and the template hierarchy. So we can totally change some of this. Yeah, I mean, I think this design is fine. I don't think it's the best in the world. I saw this and I was more like, oh, actually I've built tons of these filters at my old job, and I would like to build another one. And so I sort of was seeing more like the JavaScript opportunities here with this one. So, yeah, it sounds like that makes sense. So, but thank you for your comment. Thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. So, okay. I'm a little fuzzy on some of this, but we kind of need to move forward here. I do like this example markup that ChatGPT is giving us, so we're gonna proceed with this. We are going to proceed with this because I think this is a good idea. And I think offline, I'm going to explore this a little bit more this week because I'm not 100% understanding. Not 100% understanding what it is telling me about what gets read out loud and what doesn't. And I'm going to change this to access hidden. And then let's give our H3s a class, and I'm going to call this tertiary heading. And then let's update our inputs here in one moment. So we're just going to put in some dummy data for now, because this is obviously going to be dynamic from our products. So we'll just put in fruit and cheese. We love fruit and we love cheese. And just make, there we go. So there's our category, and this will be our colors. So honestly, this isn't a bad idea to do this kind of price, right? But no, I'm not gonna, I'm fine. I'm good with what I originally decided. So we'll say colors. We'll say pink. We just need data. We just need some static data for styling. Pink, yellow, and orange. Perfect. Yep, that's all I wanted. Is I want an input and I want 2 sets of checkboxes. So those are going to be our filters, but we are still going to do some sorting. And where's our mock-up? Yep, that's it. So now let's get our product grid going in here. So here's our products. Excuse me. So this is our sidebar filter, grid wrap, sidebar filter, and let's do product grid. And then these I'm going to put into articles. Article product. And we want a figure with an image. So we'll do a figure with the class of figure. And we want an image. We'll just grab a couple images. We'll see. And we have in our product JSON, we've got the image, the image endpoint URL and alt text. So we'll pull that in dynamically. And then our H2, we'll do an H2 with the class of product name. we'll say blueberry cheesecake. And then I'm going to put a paragraph tag with 2 spans. So we'll do a class of discount, price, and we'll do a class of yeah, just price. And of course, all of that is in our product JSON. Price, discount is a percentage. Sale is true, false. I don't know if I really need sale, true, false, because I think it stands to reason that if you have a discount value, it is on sale. But I included sale just in case, just for the heck of it, in case I need that for something. Are you familiar? Yes, you're not the first person to ask me that. I am familiar with that. In my opinion, it is for projects of this size, it is just too much for me. It's a little too verbose for me. I could see where on a big enterprise level website, it's really useful. I know what it is. I've read it, and I still do it the way I do it. So I hope that's not too frustrating for you. My approach to naming things with classes is to just call it what it is. So this is kind of my approach. So, I mean, I've had people tell me like that it is far too frustrating to watch me name my classes because they wish I would use a more formal structure like BEM, and I don't know what to tell you. This is just how I like to do it. So, yes, I am aware. So I don't always have a hard and fast reason for why I do what I do, other than it's just how I like to do it sometimes. So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if you enjoy structure and like I guess formal solutions is the only way I can think of to call it. You should do whatever works for you and your projects. I had one person once really encourage me to start using more shorthand because shorthand works really, really well for them. That does not work well for me. I can't remember what all those things are. I have to just say what it is. So sometimes that means I spell it out and then I never wonder, well, what is that thing? I'm just not sure. So you're totally right. It's what you're most comfortable with. And like you said, it's not for a bigger project. Yeah. So I think on enterprise level websites, big organizations, you absolutely have to have structure in order to make class names and things more modular, right? So every time you build a new page or a new module, your developers aren't reinventing that wheel. They're leveraging the styles that already exist inside of that ecosystem. 100%. For stuff like this, I'm just more comfortable kind of calling it what it is. So, and I think this is it. We can go back in when we're styling. I'll go back in. I don't think we need something that says sale and something that says what the discount is. I think just something. Well, I guess we could put this in here, couldn't we? Let's just put in, I think that I would defer to, we'll make this a div. And we'll just call this sale, 20%. And this is something that I would probably absolutely position over top of the image. So the article would be the parent for relative absolute positioning. So, yeah, this works. So let's pop a few of these in here. Yeah. People will argue Tailwind over not using Tailwind, and ultimately it's contextual and preference as long as the tools are available. Yeah, I totally agree. I had somebody in the chat, and please, if you are the person, if you're watching now and you're the person who said this, I am not criticizing you at all. I just find it interesting the comments that people make. I think this person just said, you know, what you're doing would be so much easier if you just use Tailwind. And I was like, yeah, I know. Like, that's not the point. The point is just a practice because I believe so strongly in. So, okay, I had a junior developer for several years who spent tens of thousands of dollars on a front end boot camp and didn't know the difference between a div and a span. Didn't even know what a span was or why you would use one. So it goes without saying this person didn't understand the difference between display inline and display block. That's a problem. That's a problem. She could build a React app, but she didn't know how to do some really basic core foundational stuff. So the whole point of this, the reason I decided to start streaming was because I wanted to encourage people to just sort of go back to some of the basics, learn some of the basics, because I do think that it will make your life easier, especially if you're a new developer or even just new in an organization. You're going to be given all the crap work to do. The new person always gets the worst stuff. Spaghetti CSS, legacy code, old version, you know, the earliest version of Angular that's been hanging out for 5 or 6 years, right? And you have to go in and fix that stuff or build something new, and they're not giving you time to rebuild it. And I personally think your life's going to be a lot easier if you understand some of the basics. It's going to be easier to get through some of that stuff. Oh, yes. Well, hopefully, guitar jams, you know the reason for that. I had to implement that earlier, so you're saying you had to wait 20 minutes to be able to chat. That's because in the early days of streaming, I had shenanigans in the chat. So hopefully you can understand why I had to implement that. If you're just here to cause trouble, you are less likely to do it if you have to be subscribed for 20 minutes first. So I actually really like Angular. So at my last job, I used Vue for 7 years. I do really like Vue. I have built a couple of Angular apps. I've never used React. Nobody's ever asked me to build anything in React. I definitely didn't sit at home on my own and learn to use React. So that's like my dirty little secret. Well, not so secret since I talk about it all the time. I do personally like Angular, though, I have to say. If I was going to take any of my static designs and turn it into an app, if I had to like make a full stack app, I would probably choose Angular. But, you know, we all have the thing that we like to do, right? So, yeah, and the whole point of this is just, I personally think your life will be easier if you just understand some of the basics. So when you have that job and they give you all the crap, you'll know what to do. So, well, anyways, Guitar Jams, thank you for waiting it out and for joining us in the chat. I'm happy to have you. Always happy to have new folks. So, okay, so here's our product grid. Up here at the top of the grid wrap, we need to do our, excuse me, showing one of, we'll do this showing. We're going to do a sort by with the drop down. So this would be a button with an unordered list. This I would not put inside a form. And then we'll have this view, grid or list. So we'll add a div. And we'll call this the product meta. And then we'll just do a paragraph tag with the class of showing. And then we would probably want to do showing. I can already see in my mind's eye showing one of, we'll say 6, showing 1 to 6. We'll put in an M dash. Showing 1 to 6 of 79 results. Of 21 results. So I don't think we need a span around this. So showing 1 to 6 of 21 results. So this would all be dynamic. Then we would have another div with a button. So we would say div sort. We'll call this sort. And then we'll say sort by, and then we'll do a button. This would be an ARIA label. Sort by and default. And then we want to make sure that we have chevron down outline. And then I think a child element would be the UL. So we'll just say, we'll give this a class of sort dropdown. Well, probably we could just do, or what did we do up here? User dropdown, because it would be styled the same. So we'll just do user dropdown. So this would be, we want A to Z, Z to A, and then we could do low to high and high to low. I wonder if a UL, this is probably actually going to have to be a select, isn't it? Although we could just use like data categories. So for now, we're just going to go with it. We're probably, I don't think we actually need to use a select. We could probably just use data categories. We'll worry about it when we get to the JavaScript. For now, just trying to get something in here. So, because this was just linking to something. So this could be an unordered list because it just links to another, page. This is actually filtering something. So if we need to change this to a select, we definitely can. We have more control over styling if we do it this way and can just use data categories and skip the whole form element thing. So we'll worry about that when we get there. Okay, So we have sort by, and then our last is view. So presumably this would just be a click event where we could just click on grid or click on list view, and it would just be a click event that changes the class and changes the styling. So we'll do div, we'll just call it view. And we'll do a button, aria label, grid view, and here's our grid outline. And let's take out this value for the stroke. Aria hidden true, button for grid. Yep, that works. And here's our list outline. Oh, whoops, this is the wrong. Aria label, list view, grid view, list view, aria hidden true. Yep. And then we're going to have a load more button at the bottom. So here is our product grid. I don't think the button needs to be inside the grid. We can move it back in if we need to. So we'll just say button, aria label. Oh, I guess we don't need an aria label because we're not hiding any text. Load more. And we'll just give this a class of button for styling. Oof, it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. If I'm being honest, I kind of want to skip these two things. Follow us on Instagram, sign up for the newsletter. But I'm not going to. Some things I just don't care about. I don't care about those things, but they're part of the mock-up. So, okay, so here's our product meta. Sidebar, grid, button, grid, wrap. So I think these two things are still part of the main container, not part of the footer, but clearly outside of the grid wrap. So div will say, we'll just call this social wrap. And then we could do div Instagram. I mean, does that matter? Div Instagram. Yeah, div Instagram. Instagram. Insta grid. There we go. Probably want I would say this would be an H2. Yeah, these can both be H2s because we're outside of that product grid. So I don't want the grid yet. Instagram. And we'll say H2 secondary heading. Follow us on Instagram. Then we want, this could actually be a section, couldn't it? Because we have a heading. And then this could be the div Insta grid. I'm going to do a figure with a class of figure. We'll do an image. I'm just going to grab some images. Yeah, I think that's it. There are 6. This will not be dynamic. This will be static. I am not planning to pull in the Instagram API or worry about messing with API keys or anything like that. It's not a bad idea. If I was going to make one exception to frameworks, it would be building an Express app so we could build out an API and hide that API key. That is the one exception that I would make to frameworks because I think Express is so incredibly useful for that. So I'm going to put that on the to-do list for 2025 is to, and Instagram would honestly be the perfect thing to do that for, to get an API key for Instagram and build an endpoint where we're hiding our API key and using it in the project. That's not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea. Okay, so here's our Instagram section, and then I'm going to do another section for the form. So we'll do section, and really social wrap, Instagram, newsletter, H2, whoops. Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. And we'll do a form with a class of form. I'm not going to worry about the action. So we'll say label for email. Probably this would have to be required. Your email address. I think traditionally you would need a bit more than this. They usually want a name, but we're just gonna follow the mock-up. We're just gonna follow the mock-up, right? It's about practicing being accessible, semantic. We're not gonna worry about too much here. Plus, it's an open source project, so anybody who wants to take it and modify it and adapt it for 2025 best practices is welcome to do so. Okay. Now the footer. Oh, we need a button. Here we go. button subscribe. And we'll give this a class of submit. And of course, anytime you have a button element inside of a form element, it will automatically submit the form. If you have a button inside of a form element and you do not want it to submit the form, just give it a type of button. But I'm not doing that in this case because I do want it to submit the form, or theoretically, that's what would happen. So, okay, now we're on to our footer. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 sections. One is clearly a little bit bigger. So this is ideal for grid because last weekend I learned grid CSS for the first time. I know it's as scandalous as being a front-end developer who has never used React because I just love Flexbox. Flexbox has met my needs for a decade. But of course, now I learned grid and I love it. So I see something like this, and this is ideal for grid right here. So I think with Flexbox, I would have to put these 4 columns in a container, and then I would have to put about us in a container, and then I would have to Flexbox this container. No, I know now with grid that this is wildly easy to have the first column take up 2, and then the remaining columns each take up 1. So delighted to be able to look at this and see the perfect use case for grid. So, oh yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for the button advice. Been a while since doing front end for me. So yeah, I've learned that the hard way. Like the day I asked ChatGPT, why doesn't my button work inside this form? So you could, I'll pass along your gratitude to ChatGPT for explaining it to both of us. So, okay, so let's start with about us. And these will be, I feel like about us, corporate info, my account, follow us, and departments could all be H2s or H3s. I feel like it's appropriate for those to be H3s in a footer. That's what I think. So you tell me if you think I'm wrong. So, and then we can also do these in sections because they do have headings. So I'm going to do a section with a class of footer items. CSS Grid seems intimidating, but it is basically Flexbox. Kevin Powell has great lessons on using them interchangeably. Yeah, I totally agree. So the thing that I was really happy to figure out about CSS Grid was that we still use justify content and align items. So, and those things I understand really, really well, obviously from a decade of Flexbox. So I do know of Kevin Powell. I've watched a few of his videos. I did the Traversy Media CSS Grid tutorial, and I didn't even do the whole thing. I did the first like 30 minutes, and I was like, okay, I think I got this. I do want to go back and finish it. The second part of the tutorial was a project, but yeah, I'll go check out Kevin Powell as well. But I was really, really pleased with how easy it was to use and implement. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed learning that, and that somebody specifically asked me to use it on a project after like several weeks of saying, why aren't you using CSS Grid? And I finally was like, okay, I will definitely use CSS Grid in the next project. Agreed. Traversy Media is the GOAT. Talk about a person who is not only a good teacher and clearly a great developer, but one of the most relatable in a land of like how do I say this? The development part of YouTube is like kind of this bro culture, right? That I've been a little leery of, or that I am not, I've been a little turned off by. Um, Traversy Media is like the opposite of that. He is a good teacher, he is knowledgeable, and he is like so relatable. He's just so relatable and authentic. I love watching his content. I've done so many of his tutorials. I just love him so much. So, anyways. Okay, so we'll do H3, and I'm gonna call this a footer heading. And I think this is about us. Yeah, I love Brad Traversy. And we'll just do a little bit of lorem. And then I think we can put this in an unordered list. I'll give this a class of footer list. Whoop. And then we have, whoops, why do I keep doing that? Where is our phone? Menu search. Call. And then we've got 2 anchor links with phone numbers. So I'm going to put (800-666-8888). Okay, so gibberish. All right. And then a phone, we've got an email. And then an address. And we'll just do this. Main Street. Oh, we should probably put this in an address element, right? 2, 3. And we are in St. Paul, Minnesota. Oops. All right. Boy, this is a monstrous footer. Which is fine. It's just fine. Section. Footer items. And I'm just going to make one of these and copy it. Page 3, footer heading. We're so close. We're so close. What is this? Corporate info. And then we'll do a UL. What do we want here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll just say item 1, item 2. Oops. So we've got my account, follow us, and departments. And I'll probably go and fill these in with the my account, follow us, with the correct items offline. But I'm not going to worry about it now. Departments. Oh, look at us. We're so close. We're so close. All right. And then this would just be a div. And we'll just call this with a class of footer meta. Copyright 2016 LaBelle, all rights reserved, designed by. So we'll say and copy. And then we'll put in a dynamic date. Yours truly. Designed by. I'm just going to say design. Let's see here. All rights reserved. Design by. Design name LaBelle. Yeah, I am aware of this. I couldn't think of it right off the top of my head. So, but thank you. You know what? I'll actually take a screenshot of this. So, I knew that was going to drive, as I was doing it, I was like, that's going to drive somebody crazy. I know it is, because I couldn't off the top of my head remember. So, but thank you for the reminder, and I have officially screenshotted what you just put into the chat. So thank you for that. Okay. Design name LaBelle. I'm not going to worry about these little currency icons for now. I'll see if I can go scrounge some up. So the last thing I want to do today is, where's our products? Whoops. our sidebar. Here is our product grid. Here we are. Here's everything. Oh, and I forgot to take out the colors. That's fine. Let's just get our, the last thing I want to do is really just get our dynamic data in here. And then tomorrow we can start styling. Yes. And I'm just going to comment this out. And I'm just going to put in an ID. Well, we don't need an ID, do we? We can just use a query selector. All right. Script.js. And I prepped last night. Because JavaScript is by far the thing that I struggle with the most. I can't write JavaScript like I can write CSS. Takes me longer. I fumble around a bit. So I prepped ahead of time. So can do some CSS filtering to remove the saturation. Let's see here, my screen is in the way. On image on the fly. Yeah, we could definitely do that. We'll see how things shake out once we get all those in there. Thank you for the live. Keep doing this. Yet would love to also join you with more other devs, like collaboration if possible. Oh, for sure. For sure. That was another reason I wanted to start streaming, is because, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm going to digress for a moment. I was working with a junior developer at the time who was a great person, was a human being that I really, really liked, but as a junior developer didn't listen to anything that I said. So and that was really frustrating, to work with somebody who always needed my help, always needed guidance, but wouldn't take a step back and take the time to like learn the basics and learn some core foundational skills, and then to always need my help and to tell me I was wrong and just not listen to me. And it was so frustrating. And I was like, you know what? I bet if I just started to do kind of this build in public and live stream, maybe I could start to meet developers who actually wanted to be more collaborative, and like we could help each other and we could share ideas with each other, right? There's so many things that I've learned to do from streaming, because people come into the chat and they're like, well, have you heard of this? Have you tried this? Why don't you do that? You know, you can do this, can't you? And I'm so grateful for that. Sometimes people come into the chat and they're like, yeah, you got that wrong. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And then I go and look and I'm like, oh yeah, actually I did. So I find myself being really defensive. So it's helped me learn to let go of that and to be truly collaborative. So in the beginning, in the early days, I had some shenanigans in the chat. It wasn't anything and so I learned to just put some restrictions on, you know, how long you had to be subscribed. And now I've just had nothing but great positive experiences with people being like, oh, like, let's share some ideas. So I would also love to collaborate on something. I am on X and I am on Instagram. I have those linked in the About tab on my channel page. And I try to check them at least once a day. So if you ever want to reach out to me outside of the stream, that is a good place to do it. And I will be better about checking those things and getting back to people. I'm always down for a collaboration or hearing about people's ideas. So, okay. with that being said, so we'll just get this ready. And again, you can thank ChatGPT for helping me get this all sorted out last night. So first we're going to get our grid. I think I will do this by ID. Really? There we go. And then we'll check to make sure that the grid is actually here. Otherwise, we'll stop. All right. Oh, and then ChatGPT was really encouraging me to follow through on this currency formatting. So I do want to do that. And if you're wondering, Angela, why aren't you just typing? Why aren't you just copying and pasting? Because I learn better when I actually type things out. So hopefully that doesn't drive you crazy. Yes, currency. Let's see. All right. Now we fetch. Oh, good. Good. This is a refresher for me, so seeing you do it your way is nice. Yeah, and there's more than one way to do this, right? And 100% ChatGPT has totally changed how I view learning new things. I went from just being utterly exhausted by spending hours on Stack Overflow, trying to get things to work, reading documentation that is like stereo instructions, being stuck in tutorial hell just like everybody else, to finding a resource that actually does a really good job explaining things and helping me with code. And I don't need this kind of help with CSS. Let me see here. Oh, I don't need this kind of help with CSS. I need this kind of help though with JavaScript, and ChatGPT does a better job explaining it than any person or tutorial I've ever taken. It's just fine. I just find it so much more helpful. So yeah, it really, there's a time and a place for copy and paste, but in my situation, it's really better for me if I just type it out and don't copy and paste it. So okay, so let's do our little loop-de-loo products for each. Oops. For each product. Oh, what is happening here? I can tell that I'm getting tired and making a lot of mistakes. Okay. we'll create our article. Document, create element, article. Then we need to add a class. So we're going to article class list. Whoops, is that a bad word? Product. I think that's what I named it, right? Article class product, yes. I feel like I did something wrong here. No, I think this is right. Oh, we don't need that. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and deal with our pricing first. So we're going to let the display price equal, and we have our formatter up here. So it's the format product price. And that is this right here in our data. So we're defining the original product price. And then we're going to check to see if the product is on sale. So if product sale, because that's a Boolean value, and there's a product discount, then we need the sale price, which is equal to the product price minus the product price times the product discount. Product discount divided by 100. So if the product is on sale and there is a product discount, the sale price is the product price minus, not equals, minus the product price times the product discount divided by 100, since that value is a percentage. So then we need the new display price. So that would make the display price equal to, and we'll do our span, this is the format sale price, FMT, format sale price. And then we also, so it would be the sale price, and then it would be the format product price. So we would do this. Yeah. So there we go. We'll close this. Love it. Love it, love it. Okay, so now we're going to get our article inner HTML. Is equal to, and I am going to copy and paste this in. So here's our image, loading lazy, product images, product image, and our alt text. So our endpoint for the image, alt text, the name, and the display price. And we have all of that in our JSON. So there's our inner HTML. And then we grid, append, child, article. And then, oops, we'll do a catch. So if there's an error with our data, we will console log the error. And we will get the error. Oh, let's see if this worked. No, didn't work. What's happening here? Well, we don't have a oh, I didn't initialize the function. You know what, though? That's the best error in the world to make, because it means you didn't really screw anything up, right? Oh. Let's see here. Oh, it's not finding our images. Oh, I must have gotten... Oh, I think this is the wrong URL. There we go. There we go. There's our data, our dynamic data. And our prices. So if it's, you can kind of see it there. So if it's on sale, it's calculating the sale price and the regular price. Look at that. Nice. We love it. We love it. Awesome. This makes me so happy. So it's my goal to make sure, because I'm getting more traffic than I ever used to on the streams, which is super exciting, but I also am sometimes, I feel like I'm not delivering on the JavaScript part of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I'm trying to do that more often and make sure that we're pulling in dynamic data so we can make sure that throughout the build, even if we're just in the HTML and CSS phase, we're still implementing some JavaScript. We're making JavaScript a part of the process. That's really important for me because I am not going to get better at it if I'm never doing it. And I find myself actively avoiding it, not because I don't enjoy learning it, but because I just hate looking like a fool in a live stream, and I have to start getting over that. So, and this was great because I actually took the time last night to prep and practice ahead of time. So we love that. Okay. You may answer this when you take a digression break. What are all the tools you use for live streaming? Are those comments highlighted on screen by YouTube itself, or do you use a different tool? Okay, this is a great question. So I am using OBS for streaming. And then in order to do the comment highlighting, I am using this thing called Live Chat Overlay, which is an open source tool. It's just a browser extension, Chrome extension, Live Chat Overlay. Yeah, Live Chat Overlay. And to set this up, just search on YouTube for a setup video. I set this up a long time ago, almost a year ago, but you pop out the chat like this. There's a URL, and then you add it as a browser source in OBS. And beyond that, I wouldn't be able to tell you how it works. I just know that it works, but I have considered diving a little deeper into this and forking this repository because there are some things that I wish it did that it doesn't do, that I think if I dug into it and like got some access to the YouTube chat API, I could do what I want, but I haven't had time and I haven't prioritized it. So I hope that helps. Yeah, so those are the two things I use, OBS and live chat overlay. Beyond that, for streaming, my setup is extremely simple. I have a Canon EOS, I think it's a Mark 50. I don't think they make this camera anymore. One second. Hang on, I'll tell you everything you want to know. I use a Canon mirrorless camera with a capture card. And the capture card is like the Elgato capture cards are really expensive. They're like $100. I was too cheap to buy that, so I bought one called Cam Nova on Amazon and it was like 20 bucks and I have a couple of them and I've been using it for over a year and it works beautifully. So I use, like I said, a Canon mirrorless camera with a capture card. And then I have a couple other comments here. I always forget to call the function after defining it. I wonder if I had a bug. Nope, you don't have a bug, my friend, unless it's a virus that's spreading. I always forget to initialize my functions, but it's the best mistake to make, right? I think it is. How many monitors do I use? I have two 27-inch monitors. Or actually I have three. So I have the camera right in front of me. I have my MacBook Pro right here, and then I have a 27-inch monitor on the left and on the right. So I have two 27-inch monitors plus my MacBook Pro. So technically three monitors. JavaScript is the crux of front end. Wish front end specialization was more respected instead of back end or client work handed to designers. Yeah, I have. I think front end is respected. In my opinion, the HTML CSS part of front end doesn't get as much respect as the JavaScript aspect of front end. I think frameworks are partly responsible for that because I do think that HTML and CSS sometimes gets treated like a problem that needs to be solved. And I think Bootstrap is a great example of that, right? I remember when Bootstrap first became popular around 2012, 2013-ish. It just was like, my personal opinion is that HTML and CSS were treated like a problem that needed to be solved because it was all about JavaScript. And I think there are two types of front-end developers. I think there's the front-end developer who leans more into building UIs, like clearly that's my strength and what I enjoy doing. And then I've met full front-end developers who I really think are like full stack developers because they're so entrenched in frameworks like React or Angular or whatever, and their strength is clearly to be more object-oriented programmers. That's how I see that type of front-end developer. You tell me if you have a different opinion, but I because I love HTML and CSS so much, I do think people are like, you don't need to work that hard at that. There's tools for that. So I don't know. Only people in folly don't know this. Yeah, everyone has their purpose in development. Agreed. I think development is so big and vast and diverse that you can really pick something and go with it and make it your own and make it valuable. I mean, I don't know. I think people should do whatever makes them happy. People should do whatever makes them happy and whatever I don't mean to sound too wishy-washy, but just do whatever gives you joy, do whatever makes you feel good, do the thing that you feel like you get to add the most value to. That's how I approach it. That's what I do. So, so here we are. We got done exactly what I wanted to get done today. I'm very, very happy with this. We're right at about 2.5 hours, which is perfect. Tomorrow, when we fire things up again, we are immediately going to jump into the styling. After I have been a Sass user for over a decade, and I still use and love Sass, but I've decided for the purposes of this channel that I am moving forward with vanilla CSS, and I couldn't be happier with that decision, because what I've learned the last couple projects using vanilla CSS is that my scoping was out of control with Sass. I was burying my styles so deeply specifically that it was kind of crazy how specific they were. And so it has helped me zoom out and get a much better handle on my specificity and scoping of how I style things. And I'm really happy with that decision. And again, my projects aren't big, hairy, enterprise level projects, so it's easy to manage with vanilla CSS. Sass, I think one of the obvious advantages is the organization and creating partials. But again, I would say that another advantage of Sass is creating variables, but you can do that now in vanilla CSS too. So you don't need Sass for that anymore. And also another obvious advantage is we don't need a compiler. We don't need to run a Sass watch. None of this needs to be a Node app. We don't need a package manager. We need three things. We need index.html. We need style.css. We need script.js. That's it. That's it. Three really powerful things. So I agree with you. HTML and CSS is so fundamental. Bootstrap is a high-level abstraction that doesn't allow too much low-level control. Strong UI developers love total control. Yeah. And I'm controlling. Like at my core, I am a deeply controlling person. So I also prefer vanilla CSS, less overhead, and you learn more of how it works than using a tool to abstract things. I totally agreed. I'm going to be rewatching this stream, Angela. Thank you. Well, we're here every weekend. I hang out here pretty much every single Saturday and Sunday to do this because I enjoy it so much. It's dedicated time for me to practice. I get to meet people like you all who hop into the chat to hang out with me, share ideas, chat about front-end development. Like my mom doesn't want to talk about front-end development. She doesn't know what that means, right? My sister, she doesn't know. She has no idea. I don't have very many people in my life who really understand these nuances, and I get to talk to people who understand it and enjoy talking about it just as much as I do. So, well, with that being said, I think we're going to call it a day. I hope to see you all again soon. I will be back tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to start styling. I feel very good about getting the majority of these styles done. I would love to get into the actual JavaScript filtering part of this next weekend. I think that's completely doable. So with that being said, do me a favor, if you haven't liked the video yet, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. What are you waiting for? I would love to have you. You'll be able to hang out in the chat with the rest of us. Yes, see you soon. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.